Transition from high school to college can be very overwhelming,
Hmm.
particularly for first generation students. Since no one in your family's ever been there, you don't know what to expect. None of you know what to expect. Where do I go? Who do I see for help? Am I the only one in my school like me? The pressure to succeed by your family as a first generation student is enormous. You're carrying the hopes and dreams of generations.
Yep.
Pretty tough job for a 19-year-old, 18-year-old. Students also come in with implicit biases from what they learned at home or what they heard in school. Things like, no one cares about you in college. You sink or swim on your own. It can be terrifying as you go into this new environment and you may be going away from home for the first time. Now, thankfully, there are counselors like Veronica Mendez-Liaina. Did I get it right?
Yes, you did.
Wonderful. Get her name right. Veronica's here to help students find their voice. Okay. Let's meet her. Now, Veronica is an academic advising specialist and professional learning development consultant and facilitator. Put that on a business card at Spokane Falls Community College. Now, prior to this role, she was the academic advisor for prospective, current, and former students within the Kinesiology and Sports Management programs at Washington State University. Veronica, welcome to Life Altering Events.
Thank you so much for having me, Frank.
We had a couple of conversations, one at NACA and one on a Zoom call like this. And your background story was fascinating. So share with the audience something about your background.
Um, well, I like to say I'm a small town girl in a sense. I was born and raised in Othello, Washington. Othello, Washington is a small agricultural town in the middle of Washington State. So my parents were both born in Texas and somehow migrated to Washington to work. They were migrant workers. They worked in the fields. So growing up, I learned nothing but what hard work looks like and what it can get you in the end. Growing up, my dad was an auto mechanic and he worked from like 6 a.m. to about 8 o'clock at night. And my mom was a teacher's aide for the special ed department for 48 years at the high
Wow.
school. So I know hard work, compassion, what all that looks like, and just love, you know.
Mhm.
Um, and I remember my parents always having more than one jobs growing up. So me and my sister, I have one sister, her name is Jennifer. Our job was to make sure we had good grades and to be the best at whatever we did, whether it was sports or junior miss pageants or whatever. We were trying to make our parents proud all the times. But when I turned 12, about 12 to 17, I started working with my mom in the apple orchards. We were thinning apples. So I became somewhat of a migrant worker myself and what that felt like and what my parents and my grandparents went through. So that's what I did. And I feel like that work taught me a lot and that life growing up taught me a lot, but it also kind of stereotyped me in a sense, not only to my teachers there at the high school, but when I was filling out college applications, meeting with recruiters and everything like that. When I met with my high school counselor, despite having my 3.8 GPA, being a 4-year varsity letter athlete, and having all these accomplishments, my high school counselor basically told me that you're never going to make it at a big university. You should just get married, have babies, and learn a trade.
Oh my God.
So I'm like, okay, thanks. And
Yeah,
I
thank you very
walked
much.
out. And I thought to myself, well, I could listen or I can just kind of go where I wanted to go. So I started Washington State University my freshman year that next year after my senior year. And throughout those years, I not only did very well in my academics, I was a student leader. I helped start a Latina-based sorority, and I even played college rugby, Frank.
Wow.
So I did it all. And I wouldn't have done it if I would have listened, if you think about it. So when I graduated with my bachelor's degree, I actually scanned that degree and I sent it back to my high school counselor and I told him, thanks for believing in me.
Yeah.
um, but keep on moving. A little bit about me is I have this this compassion and this need to help other people, because that's all I saw growing up as well. So after college, I stayed at WSU and I started working in the multicultural student services as a program assistant. So where I not only got to learn about the ins and out of a university system, but I got to learn about where students come from, how they identify, their culture, how people see them, and how to help them know that they're going to make it. They can do it. I used to tell everybody, you look like me. If I can do it, you can do it. We can do it together. And so the best thing part too is I got my master's degree while I was working there, and I also scanned that and I sent it to my high school counselor. Said, there you go. A small town girl can make it. A first generation college student can make it. And I think that's what I have been preaching these whole 20 some years that I've been working in higher ed to my students. That's why I do what I do. I love what I do right now.
Now you were at Washington State. Okay,
Yep.
it was a it used to be a Pac-12 school. I don't know
I
I don't know what
know.
we are now
I
anymore.
know. I'm heartbroken
But
right now.
so am I. So am I. I went to UCLA and I did some work with the University of Washington, so I'm heartbroken too. But you left.
Yes.
You left the Pac-12 school and you went to a junior college school. And there's so many stigmas about kids in junior college. You're not good
Yep.
enough to go to a 4-year school. I don't know what I want to do.
Mhm.
How did you address it? First off, why did you make that change to a community college, and
Well,
what drove you there?
I had been working in Washington State University for 18 years. So that was my first real academic advising job. That's where I became the counselor. That's where I learned all the ins and outs of just really how to connect with students. I used to tell people I want to be an Elsa.
Yeah.
So I don't think I even told you this, but Elsa, not from Frozen, but Elsa, her name was Elsa Camacho. She was my very first academic advisor. And everybody wanted to be with her. No matter what major you were, you wanted to go and talk to her because she made you feel warm and fuzzy and a safe space. And you could talk to her and she would just tell you how it is. She would not only give you what you needed to take, but she would also like give you advice, like really good advice on life and just how to be an adult sometimes. So I wanted to do that. So after I was a program assistant, I got my first gig. I say my first gig as an academic advisor for the College of Business, and it took off from there. So I became an Elsa, and I have been doing it ever since. So from the College of Business, I went to the College of Education. I joined NACADA, which is a national advising organization. I became a leader, both regionally and nationally. So Washington State was really good to me in my growing up stages, being where I am right now and just learning the ins and outs and even the uglies too. So, this business is not always a win. Sometimes you have those losses or you have those low times, but it's how you get out of those and how you bring those back up, not only with yourself, but with your students. I started at Spokane Falls Community College in 2018. So I've been there 5 years and I love it. I think the differences between a university system and a community college is how I viewed it when I was coming out of high school. When my counselor told me you should learn a trade, where do you learn trades at? You learn them at a community college, at a technical college. That's where you went, and that's where people told you to go when you weren't smart enough, when you didn't have a lot of money, when you were just not good enough, in a sense, to go to a major university. How are you going to afford it? Your parents can't do it. They never went to college. How do you expect to be successful? Go to a community college, you'll be fine. So when I started working there, the range of people that I work with is amazing. Not only the people I work with, like my colleagues, but my students. I have students as young as 16 all the way to age 50. And their hopes are the same. Their dreams are the same. Their backgrounds are all different. So each one is different. And I love learning a little piece of everyone every time they come in my office or I meet with them for an appointment. Community colleges are not just for those who can't make it, are not just for those who are poor. I hate those assumptions. Those are biases that, society has brought on to our students, especially in high school. I have a lot of running start students, which is amazing. Our percentages of running start students just went up by 45%, this year. So it's been awesome. The changes in viewing what a community college can really do for you. Plus, there's a lot of jobs out there that I love talking to students about that not everybody wants to do anymore. That you can
Absolutely.
only get at a community college and a technical school. My boyfriend, I love him so much. My boyfriend, he's a truck driver. To get a CDL, you have to go to school. It's not like you go to the DMV and you just apply for it. These are jobs that help our economy keep running. So that's what I like to talk to my students about. It's not only getting them to the university anymore and keeping them there and 4 years and whatever. This job that I'm in now, for me, is even more rewarding because I'm working with the students who really don't think they belong there. They can't make it. So yeah.
I love that answer. I went to a community college also for the same reasons. My counselor said, um, you might be the guy on the side of the road in the highway department holding the sign, right?
Mhm.
So with that boost of confidence, I was a baseball player, so I thought, well, I'll go play baseball for 2 years and see where it goes from there.
Yeah.
But there's this terror. I didn't even know how to talk to a professor.
Mhm.
What does a professor have in common with me? Do you see that? And how do you help those students get past that?
So I think with incoming students, there's a big difference. There's going to be a big cultural shock when they come from a high school to a college. If the studying is different, the curriculum is different, the professors are different. There is no personal relationship before they even get there. They're going into the waters, and they kind of feel like it's a sink or swim, right?
Yes.
So what I like to do when I meet with my students, before they even go into a classroom, they got to meet with me. So when they come in to meet with me, my favorite thing is just to ask them, tell me your story. And I think sometimes we don't get to ask a lot of people that. I think sometimes that is one of the questions that we kind of throw out the window. We're there to get our job done. I have 400 students. I got to get to see, and get them done by a certain time. So I gotta just get them in and get them out. That's not how it's supposed to work, at least in my office, in my area. What I like to do is I like to sit the student down. If they're with a parent, great. If they're not, great. And I ask them, so tell me your story. Where do you come from? What are we doing? What are your goals? What are your hopes? What are your dreams? And then let's work together to kind of figure out how we're going to get there. And they kind of look at you funny and they start to talk, and you'd be amazed how one question can get them talking and talking. Because no matter what, Frank, people will come into your office. I mean, even when we first met, you have an idea of what the person is like who sits in front of you without even talking to them.
Yes.
You have a story for them already made up in your head. It's human nature. We can't get away from that. That's what I kind of teach in my implicit bias workshops. No matter what, we've already created a story for somebody before we even talk to them. We see them, we meet them, we have the story, and we hope that we're right. But sometimes it could be totally off script. It's not even what we thought it was.
Mhm.
I've had students come into my office who are first generation, but live in a very fancy home and are just there because mom and dad want to be there. I have students who really want to be there because there's nowhere else and they want to get out of a situation that they grew up in. And so that's what I love about just connecting with your students. When they start to connect with you, then you start to share a little bit about yourself so that they can understand that this is a safe place. Academic advising and counseling is not only just prescribing a class schedule, telling them how to get from point A to point B, it's telling them really, I'm here for you. I'm your guide. When your parents are not here, who are you going to talk to? You have your friends, but you also need that one person who's been through it, knows how to get through it, and can help you. And that's what we do. That's our job. I feel that's our job. So the other question I really love to ask them, and I know this one is my favorite, is what do you want to be when you grow up?
I love that.
So, I can ask my 8-year-old this. What do you want to be when you grow up? And he's like, well, I want to be a police officer. I want to be a singer. I want to be a firefighter. I want to be a teacher. And it changes every day, maybe every hour, right?
Yes.
And I have an 11-year-old and I ask him, and I may only get 2 or 3 because he's like, I don't know. He's in that middle school stage where I'm still trying to figure it out, but I'm still excited, but maybe. I got a 15-year-old who really has one dream, but that's because he plays sports and I want to be a professional athlete. I go, okay, so what else? Come on, give me more. But when I talk to my 18-year-olds or, a little bit older, even, non-traditional students, I get a really prescribed answer. I want to go to school, I want to obtain a degree, and I want to get a job so I can make money to support my family. And I'm like, that's awesome. But what do you want to be when you grow up? And they still look at you like a deer in headlights. And I'm like, do you want me to go first? This is where the sharing part comes in, right?
Exactly.
And they're like, sure. And I'm like, I want to be on Broadway. And they're like, what? And they laugh. And I go, I want to be on Broadway. Go, I already have an in. My sister works on Broadway. She's a costume constructor and she loves it. So I got one in, right? But I love the feel of performing. I sing, I dance. You are my audience and I feed off your energy. And they still look at you funny. I go, I don't want to be on TV though, because you gain a couple pounds. And so just kind of keep it light and friendly. And I go, but if I can't do that now, doesn't mean that I'm never going to do it. What I'm doing now is my other dream job. I go, this is kind of my stage. My office is my stage. You are my audience, and I am performing a task that is going to make you happy, going to make you leave all warm and fuzzy. I go, that's what you do when you go to a play, right? You want to see something that just inspires you.
Exactly.
That's what I do now. If I can't do the singing and dancing, which I can do for you anytime, let me know. I'm going to do this part and make sure that you get everything that you need, but I got to get something from you. I got to feed off your energy. You got to give me something. When you start sharing a little bit about yourself, their voice starts to come out because they start to trust you. Students will not tell you that they're in a jam. They will not tell you I'm having a problem. They will not tell you I'm scared unless they trust you. So creating that safe space is so important to have.
Absolutely. You had said to me last time we spoke, and Veronica and I also met face to face at the NACA conference in Riverside. One of the things you said was you have to have options, but there's no plan A or plan B. Elaborate on that. What do you tell them?
So I like to have options because if we're going on one path, you never know what that path is going to lead you, but there's always many doors on the way if you think about it. So I like to say you're on a path to many, many doors. It just depends on which one you want to walk through. When we're doing our advising session, I don't just get them in and out. Again, that's so important. But I try to explain to them, we got a plan A, which is what we're trying to do right now. Get you in classes, get you passing classes, and get you the degree that you want. But then we also play the what if game. What if I fail this class? What if I can't get past the math? What if I just am not interested in this subject anymore? What do we do from there? We always do things together in my office. I always say we. It's never a you. Because if you leave them kind of feeling like they're doing it all by themselves, they're never going to get to any more options. They're never going to understand that there's more than what they think they can just do with one degree. I have students who want to be doctors and who haven't even gone through algebra 2 in high school. And if you haven't gone through algebra 2, that's a long road of math to be a doctor. But I have students who want to be a doctor because they want to work in a healthcare system to help people. I can do that in other ways. I don't have to be the doctor. I could be a CNA. I could be a nurse's assistant. I can be a health administrator. I could be a social worker. These are things that students don't get. They just know I want to be a doctor. It makes a lot of money, right?
Yes.
But when they can't pass the math, then they start to feel a certain way about themselves. So my thing is, let's have a plan A. We're going to have a plan B. If we take this particular class, it's going to cover these options here. If we cover this particular class, this is going to make you more marketable in this field and in this field. I've been doing this a long time to where I have been in the College of Business. I've been in education. I've been in kinesiology, sport management. I've even recruited for athletics. So I kind of have a feel of what people are looking for in the real world. Take a psychology class. This is going to help you in all these fields. You know, there are many, many options that are just not explained to students. And I think, you know, we're doing a better job in high school, but it's still kind of that assumption that just get in and get out and get a job.
Exactly. And one of the things that I discovered in my travels is very few people have one job, one career their entire life.
Yep.
And it's even more the case now because I interviewed Dr. Edward Hess, who's a futurist from the University of Virginia, and he said to me, Frank, 65% of incoming kindergartners are going to work in a job or a career that doesn't exist today.
Yep.
That's, I think, what you're just saying is, look at, you might not think this means anything, this type of a class, but this will open some doors over here, or it could be an extension for you.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
Oh, I have an example of one of my good friends. He was a higher ed administrator for about 15 years. He got a CDL and now is a truck driver and owns a freight of trucks. You know, you can change your path as long as you're happy. That is the other thing that I try to tell students. I've been doing this for almost 24 years, because this makes me happy. This is my happy place. You can't be within a job as long as you want to be if you're not getting some satisfaction out of it. So you can change your pathway. You can make changes. You can change your classes. You can change your major. I changed my major 5 times when I was in college. You don't have to just stay on one path, but the path that you do choose will give you many, many options. You just got to understand what those are and that you can get there. And I think that's very important. You know, when you have students come to the community college, they can go 2 different ways. They can get a job or they can go to a university. So right there, no matter what, they already have two options to choose from when they get done. Some of them just want to get some extra skills and get out, you know, and that's awesome. Some of them can't make it at a university, but they need some type of piece of paper anymore just to get a job.
Yep.
They come to me. I am their option. I was their plan B. So, you know, no matter if I'm plan A, plan B, plan C, I can go all the way to F. Give me somebody and I'll show you exactly how many options that student will have depending on what they've taken, what they want to take, and where they want to go. That comes with time though, you know, that comes with time. And I've been doing this long enough where I know what to tell them. I know how to help them understand. I can't make them understand, but I help them understand and then get them excited. I think that's the other part we're missing sometimes in our profession is you got to get them excited about what they're doing, what they're taking, where they're going. You know, I always say, you know, we're in this together. And I go, this is our degree. I go, I take a little bit of ownership of this and go, I'll make sure you stay on the right path. You make sure you pass the classes and we have the cake and ice cream at the end. I love the celebration part. I'll celebrate with you. I will be there. I will show up. If I get an invite, I want a piece of cake. So make sure you save me one.
Save the cake.
Save the cake.
That's a while. I think what I'm hearing from you and what I saw at the NACA conference with you is you're showing them, look at all the alternatives there are here. What life do you want, not what your parents told you to do, or generation after generation. In our case, in Italian, Sicilian, you were a laborer.
Yeah.
You worked on a railroad, you worked in a steel mill. Yeah. That's it. That's all there was. Right. And I was not going to do that. So I got out. And I think what you do is you help them open their eyes that maybe you start there, but that's not the end game.
I think my mom took us out to the fields on purpose. She did it on purpose to let us know that this is how your grandparents grew up. This is their life. This is how I grew up. This was my life until I made a change. I might not have all the education in the world, but I work to do what I love right now. So me and my sister, we do what we love. I mean, my sister, like I said, works on Broadway. You know, we come from a small town. who does that, you know? And
Right.
I work at a major university where they told me I wasn't even good enough to
Get
go.
in. Exactly.
And so you try to change what society tells you you should be doing, where your path should be. And for me, I love telling my story to my students. I love sharing myself with my students. I share even my downfalls, you know, when I was at my lowest sometimes with my students, so they understand that I've been there, you can trust me. You know, I have students with learning disabilities. I share that my son has ADHD. I've been through the IEP program process. I know what it's like to deal with somebody who has to have everything going at one time. I get it, you know. I've been in so many cultures. I can put on a step show, a powwow. I've Dia de los Muertos. I can do everything and still cook you a Kahlua pig that you've never even in your life dreamed of, you know. I have all those experiences, so I try to connect as best as I can with my students, because when you connect with your students, they will start talking to you. That is the thing that we need our students to do more with us. We need them to start telling us what is going on, what's the problem, what's not the problem, what's your win. You know, we need to get excited with them, because if they're motivated enough and they're struggling and you are there and they know that you can support them, they're going to come out of that. And they
Exactly.
will. That's where, you know, having them just trust you, getting them to understand that, you know, I'm there for them. I think a lot of times too, I get asked, you know, well, what about boundaries? That's a big issue too. But, you know, boundaries are what you make them. And if you have your students understand that, you know, after 3, I'm with my kids. I'm a single mom. My kids, my 3 boys are my life. I'm their coach. I'm their mom. I'm their biggest fan too. So that's their time. But between my hours here, you got me. Tell me what you need. So yeah.
Now, one of the things that I loved talking with you was, and not everybody's going to be a success and they're going to struggle, right?
Mhm.
And it's, are you putting in the effort? And sometimes you have to have hard conversations with them.
Mhm.
How does that go?
Well, I've had my good share of come to Jesus conversations with my students. I even remember the first time I even gave one, it was really hard. I think I cried just as much as the student did, because you gain an understanding with them. You care for them. Recently, I had to have a hard conversation with a struggling student who was going to lose his I-20, and international students need I-20s in order to go to college here in
Yes.
our country. Try telling somebody that you failed 3 quarters and you have to go back. You know, that's hard, because I'm sending them back to somewhere where they sometimes don't want to go, you know. But having those conversations, but also giving them, again, options as to what they can do with that time, you know. Sometimes students are just not prepared. Sometimes that's not even their fault. Like I said, the high school system to college system is got really different. COVID did nothing for us as well. I'd like to throw that out
Yes.
there. COVID did
Yes.
not do anything for us, and it really kind of hurt some students in their learning process. But they're not prepared, or they just don't get the content, or they're doing, like you said, a major that their parents want them to do that has no passion for them. Sitting them down and talking to them and just telling them straight out. I don't lie to my students. I tell my students, I'll never lie to you. Ask me a question and I will tell you the truth. If you're going to fail, what's going to happen? You're going to be dismissed. But it's what you do when you're dismissed that makes all the difference. Are you just going to give up? Are we going to go out there and figure out what we want to do? Are we going to come back? What's the plan? Are we going to try somewhere else? Because you always have options. Are you just here for financial aid? Is that why we didn't try? You know,
Mhm.
that's been a struggle too. But when you establish that safe space, they're going to tell you what's going on. And most likely you're going to have a solution for them, whether it be take some time off. Even though you're being forced, I get it. Take some time off, regroup. You have my number, you have my email. Let me know when you're ready to come back. That's why I'm a plan B sometimes for students at a university. We're right by Washington State University and the University of Idaho. Those students who get dismissed from those universities, come to me. I'm their plan. So
Mhm.
let's make the best of it. Just, I think struggling students don't, there's a sense of pride too. I'm here for a reason. I don't want to disappoint my parents. I've had students come to my office that saying, if I come here, will you tell my parents? I'm like, what? You're an adult. And they're like, I can't disappoint my parents. And talking to them about that too. I mean, that was my thing growing up. My goal was to always make my dad proud, no matter what I did. I needed to hear him say he was proud of me. I think because in the Mexican culture, boys were always, back then, boys were always, seen as, oh, awesome, right? And if you had a boy, your family was a little bit more elevated. My dad only had girls. He had 3 girls. My youngest sister passed away, but it was just me and my sister Jennifer, and we worked our butt off. We were the boys, we were the girls, we did the yard work, we did outside. And I share that with my students because they have to understand that no matter what you do, you're not going to really disappoint them. They'll be
That's a big
upset.
point.
They'll be
That's
upset.
mm-hmm.
But as long as you tried and you keep trying and you keep moving forward, they're going to be there for you. You wouldn't be where you're at right now if they didn't believe in you.
That's absolutely right. And that is such a big point. I remember going to school, being the first generation like you were, and I was there out of fear.
Mm-hmm.
I can't fail. I can't go back home. I couldn't face the shame that I brought because Italians and Mexicans are all alike,
Yep.
right? I couldn't have the shame that I brought to the family, right? So it was, I didn't enjoy those first couple of years of school because it was a fear-driven thing. I gotta get there. And then all of a sudden it clicks. Wow, you've done so many things. All right, what if you had to pick one thing that you're the most proud of as a counselor, what would it be?
You gave me that question and I thought about it. And I don't have one thing. I have many things. The reason why I have many things is because I love seeing my students so many years afterwards and they are successful. And I mean, I've advised directors, I've advised professors, authors, lawyers, even professional athletes, leaders in the community, people who want to be mayor, who want to go into Congress, nonprofit fundraisers. I've had my hand on every one of their shoulders, I feel. And that's my proudest moment, is knowing that I had just a little piece in their success. That's how I feel. I can tell you, I have graduated students who have failed, left, come back, and now are professors in a university.
Exactly.
I have a lot of little proud moments because that's why I do this. That's why I continue to keep doing this. This is what I love to do. And I love to see the success. I've been on a counselor, academic level. I've never been a director. I've never been an assistant director. I've always tried and I've applied, but I feel that my place is here right now.
Exactly.
And that's my proudest moment.
So what's it like when a student multiple years later comes back to seek you out and just says, thank you?
Oh,
What's
I
that
cry.
like?
I cry. I want to cry now. Because I get this from my mom. My mom helped a lot of high school students, a lot of parents who were special education students who had special needs and that compassion. And when she sees her students many years later, like working at Walmart or working somewhere and using the skills they learned from them, she just gets all teary.
Yes.
For me, it's the same thing because I helped them. At least I feel like I inspired them in some way to start and to finish. It's all about the finishing. And then even when you finish, you're not finished from there. I love writing letters of recommendation. I love writing letters for scholarships. I love seeing them at graduations years after. For my sorority, I love coming back for reunions and seeing all the ladies behind me who are now like amazing professionals. And for me, that makes me feel like I had a little part in their success. And that makes me
Yes,
successful. That's I get emotional.
I can see that. That's wonderful. We're just about out of time, Veronica. What last words would you like to leave with the audience around the world? What do you
I
want them
think
to remember?
I think for me, just to understand that academic advising and counseling is just not writing out a plan for your students. Parents also need to hear this. We're just not there to just write out a plan and just go. I think it's very important to get to know your students and get to know where they're coming from and not just create the story in your head for them. I understand that we have a lot of students. I mean, at the College of Business, and when I worked at the university, I had over 400 and some students. Now I have a smaller load, but you have advisors who have from 300 to 600 students they have to see in one semester. And I get that. But if you take a little time, maybe just a little bit more energy to get to know your students and listen to them, break down that barrier and the biases that they have against themselves and try to understand them, you're going to really make a big difference in their life. And you're going to make a big difference in yours. You might not always remember, it's like that saying, you might not always remember what someone said to you, but you'll always remember how you made them feel. That's our
Exactly.
job. Our job is to make them feel safe and to motivate them. And you'll find that they'll do amazing things.
Absolutely. I love that. How do people get a hold of you? Because there got a lot of people going to want to talk to you after this.
Well, my email is just vmliaina@gmail.com, but I'm also on LinkedIn. That's probably a better place to find me. I work for Spokane Falls Community College for the Community College of Spokane, but on the Pullman campus. And so I'm still in Pullman. I've lived in Pullman for, oh my gosh, since 1995.
Wow.
But I tell people, don't worry, it's the lotion. I'm not that old. I try not to.
Well, you look
It's a good
great.
filter, Frank.
You look great.
I tell a lot of bad jokes. That's my way of just kind of connecting though.
That's amazing. Well, as I said, we're just about out of time. Thank Veronica for being here, showing this passion, making students feel safe, helping students find their voice. This is what matters because a rising tide raises all boats, and community colleges open up a lot of doors for people who may not have had an opportunity. Now you can see this show on my podcast, which is called Life Altering Events. It's on my YouTube channel, which is called Frank Zakari. It'll be on Parade Deck, and I will be sending links to Veronica, and she can post it anywhere she chooses to post it. If you use my YouTube channel, please subscribe.
Yes.
Let me leave you with this. None of us are in this alone, and the secret to walking on water is to know where the rocks are. And today, Veronica showed us where many of those rocks are. Join me again next week. We look into another life-altering event. Veronica, thank you so much.
Thank you, Frank, for this opportunity. I appreciate it.
Thank you.